Sierra Leoneans are deeply concerned over the surge in fire incidents across the country. NDMA says 38 cases reported in January and February 2025. The southern region has been the hardest hit, recording 15 incidents, followed by the western area with 10. The northern region reported 8 incidents, while the eastern and northwestern regions recorded 5 and 4 incidents, respectively. The alarming increase in fire outbreaks has placed significant strain on the ecological, economic, and health impact on people and the environment within the last 3 months. However, Sierra Leone has been classified as a high wildfire risk country, with a weather that supports 50% chance of igniting wildfire, especially from January to March each year. So this morning, we're going to discuss this issue and the way forward. In the studio, we have Mohamed Lamin Ba, Director of Communications, National Disaster Management Agency, and Sir Thomas, Divisional Officer, National Fire Force. Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. It's a pleasure.
So I'll start with you, Mohamed. 38 cases from January to February. That's just the statistic for 2025 January to February. But prior to now, there had been fire outbreaks, whether it's at residence, institutions, even the cotton tree at some point was on fire. So let's start with the backdated cases. NDMA, your disaster management. All we've heard from Fire Force or the police is these cases are being investigated. But as the disaster management institution in the country, have you followed up? What is the investigation showing? What has been the causes of these fire outbreaks in the country?
Thank you very, very much. I think it's a very, very important question to determine the causes of these fire incidents. That is where NDMA comes in. Most times when fire incidents do occur, of course, Fire Force is called upon, they will respond to put out the fire, but NDMA will always be there to conduct an assessment to determine 1, the cause of fire, then 2, the number of people affected, and 3, what kind of immediate relief items will be able to actually supply to the affected population to cushion the impact of the fire incident on them. So I will tell you categorically that yes, indeed, the NDMA has been determining the causes of these fire incidents. In most cases, we've recorded, for example, in certain parts of the country, especially in the southern province, where bushfires, for example, led to the burning of several houses because it was uncontrolled. Because the people that were conducting, burning those bushes doesn't know, for example, how to do farm belt, how to ensure that you demarcate, so that the fire will not be able to jump and possibly come into the town. And we have also gotten fire incidents that are attributed to electricity malfunctioning, which account for more than 70% of the fire incidents, for example, in 2024, as a result of malfunctioning of electrical, either it is as a result of the fact that people are abstracting electricity illegally, or the wiring in their houses, it's not done properly. They use substandard equipment to actually do the wiring, the overloading of certain extensions, for example, using high voltage appliances on very small circuit breakers, for example. Most times the people are not at home, and it will, most times it leads to fire outbreaks. So for cooking fire incident, we only recorded 1 in Waterloo for this year. A fire incident that led, as a result of people cooking inside their houses. So we only recorded 1, which means the conscientization, the sensitization that we've been doing in regards to fire prevention campaigns, especially in that regard, has been yielding some dividend, because we have not been able to record more fires as a result of cooking in-house cooking. But also candle, zero for this year. Fortunately for us, with all the fire incidents, we have not been able to record a single death case as a result of fires, and that is very, very encouraging for us. Even though fire, for example, through our calendar, our hazard calendar. It runs right through the year. So that is why, you know, we don't have any break. There's no dull moment throughout the year regarding fire, the management of fire or the recording of fire incidents. So that is why it is right through the year that we continue to engage the public, engage communities, explain to them the dangers, what they should do and what they should not do to avoid, you know, the occurrence of fire incidents. So
let's zoom in on the causes, those that relate to EDSA. You spoke about wiring connections and those, you know, stealing electricity. But what contribution does the frequent on-ing and offing of the electricity supply and the fluctuation in the voltage from EDSA contribute to fire disasters?
I must. Well, it is a bit difficult for me to actually, you know, apportion a percentage on that now, because an assessment has not been done in that regard.
Why?
I'm coming. We look at the cause. We look at the cause. Mostly it as a result of electricity malfunctioning.
I ask you why, because when you talk to some of the people, especially some of those who have been unfortunate enough to experience a fire outbreak, the explanation is it is EDSA and the fluctuation in the voltage they're sending. Some would tell you it's not even just the fluctuation, that frequent on and off. But from what you're saying, it puts the blame on the people.
No.
Hold on, it puts the blame on the people, poor wiring, stealing electricity. So that's why, again, I'm asking, what about the fluctuation? You said there's not been a report on that, but why?
No, listen.
Why hasn't there been a study on that?
Let me just clarify.
Please do.
To a very large extent, EDSA will have some amount of blame. You understand? In anything electricity relating to fire incident.
But that didn't come out clearly in your submission.
No, I'm coming. You asked about the factors, the causes. I told you clearly that it's one, bushfires, two, electricity malfunctioning. That malfunctioning could be either from the side of EDSA or probably the end users, the type of appliances that they use. So it all relates. So it's all related. So on the side of EDSA, for example, yes, even NDMA, we have gotten such reports from people that as a result of high voltage, the on-in and off-in of the electricity as and when, you understand. And most times it destroys, even if there is no fire incident, it destroys their appliances to some extent. We have gotten that report. And that is why last year we wrote to EDSA. We wanted to collaborate with EDSA to see how we can intensify and engage certain communities relating to what they should do to avoid these circumstances. You understand? So it is not that we are oblivious of the fact that EDSA does not have any blame in this. You understand? And I believe to a very large extent, even EDSA, they themselves, to a very large extent, will want to, will not want to disagree that, yes, indeed, they don't have certain amount of blame to some extent. You understand? But however, I will put it to you now that based on our assessments on most of those fire incidents, the causes of fire, I will tell you, largely could be attributed to the end users. Largely because one, go to the slum communities, for example. You see naked wires being wrapped with plastics. You understand? You will see people, just recklessly handling electrical appliances.
But again,
it is very visible. So that is not to say EDSA does not have a problem. I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
EDSA, Elba, as you earlier mentioned, these are things that you see, and you're coming from disaster management agency. What has been the steps taken to avert?
So yeah, the steps
to avert these incidences, because if you go to communities, you see same, and you just leave it there and wait for disaster to occur, then it's a slap on the face of even MDM.
No, I want to put it that because the evidence, is there, very clear that since the establishment of the NDMA, we have done a lot in regards to, propagating fire prevention campaigns. We have done so, for that is what we are doing here. We have done so, just last week, in partnership with GO, we organized a very big training on fire prevention and resilience at our office, targeting specific slum communities. It's on a day, in fact, it's right throughout the year we've been engaging. That is one. Then two, in a situation where we have identified a particular challenge, like for example, this fire incident, we've written to ETSA. We have partnered and collaborated, and we've done certain interventions in certain communities to increase the awareness for people to know. I am telling you, the biggest problem we have is that for people to adhere. The adherence is a major challenge. I'm coming. That is not to say we will not continue until we get it right. And that's so. That said, from last year, 2024, throughout, take for example flooding. Our intervention, Our intervention in flooding, for example, has drastically reduced the impact of flooding in affected communities compared to the previous. So also this fire challenge that we are now grappling with, it is something that we've redesigned another approach.
We'll then talk on the approach that has already been designed. But nonetheless, let's see ways to us sharing. Sir Thomas, it's a pleasure having you in our studio this morning. How overwhelmed is the force on the reoccurrence of fire incidents across various parts of the country?
As my brother have already said, Mr. Elba, the fire incident is very alarming. But sometimes people blame ETSA. Okay, yes, sometimes ETSA can be blamed because of the light fluctuations that comes. But sometimes we, the people, we should blame ourselves also. Imagine somebody leaves his house. His wife went to work. The children went to school. There is electricity. He decides to make 2 or 3 different sources just to retain it because they don't have the time to come earlier home and prepare food. You want to preserve it. What they will do? They will leave the freezer on without putting the freezer off. Other appliances will be on. They will go away. Imagine if there is heavy current. Sometimes ETSA will come with a current that even to charge your phone is difficult. Then when they come with the current that they want to come with, you really know that it is highly voltageous, which is very difficult. If there is a meter that is, as my brother is saying, if you have substandard cables that are very thin, don't be, sometimes people take their time to build expensive houses. But when it comes to electrification, they don't mind to go and take people to just come and just pass cables at the end of the day once there is light. They forget the fact that you have professionals. If you pay professionals, electricians, they can able to do the proper electrification for you to preserve that house electrification for more than 5-10 years.
How many incidents of such nature have you been able to put out?
Let me come in. Last year alone, 2024.
Because the reason why I asked the question.
Yes,
of course, Elba gave us some statistics.
No, the statistics he gave was just like 1 month to 2 months.
Okay.
Yes. Let me give you the statistics of 2024 now. The statistics of 2024 is 456 fire incidents that happens across the country. I represent Fire Force at NDMA. Mr. Elba can attest to that. When I go there, I give them reports on fire statistics. Imagine Western area alone have 278 fire incidents. That means we need to concentrate on Western area when it comes to fire incidents because people misuse fire. Okay, the bushfire, yes, it happens because people don't know how to target their fire belts in those dry farm areas. Because you cannot go and make a dry farm very close to the village. You have houses, then you cannot control the fire. If you want to burn your bush, make sure you are there, or you have people that are there to secure the fire, to maintain the fire not to jump from one position to another. But you imagine people just go at night, they set the fire, they leave it. They go to their homes. And these are areas where the villages are very close to the houses. I mean, the houses are very close to the farm. When it comes to fire, it will take the entire village if you don't be careful.
Sir, let's talk about the capacity of the fire force itself. With all the fire outbreaks, and mostly there's a confrontation between community people and fire force. Then mostly the community people are blaming fire force for late response to the fire outbreaks. Why is there late response to the outbreaks?
If I can tell you, Madam Moderator, even when we are here, before I leave here, I will announce the free toll line for Western area, the provincial. People don't take it serious. You can imagine when there is fire outbreak, excuse me, sometimes people call me. Even when I was yesterday, I was in church. Somebody called me, told me about a fire outbreak. Imagine he doesn't even know fire force free toll line numbers. So when you, by the time you realize that you have called somebody that can pass on that message, then when the fire force get the message, that will be the time they will respond.
Is it also not part of the problems with the fire force, tapping into established structures of collaboration to be able to get that message out there? Because you are correct that the people need to get the number, but because many of them don't have that number directly, it also leads to a strain in your part to be able to timely respond to these fire outbreaks. And when you don't timely respond, you have confrontation with community people.
Yes, we have. You have said it. We have a lot of challenges with that.
But aren't you also not utilizing the opportunity to tap into
We have a fire
structures?
prevention department. As I speak now, they are now in the slum areas to sensitize people. We buy megaphones, those small. They go out there. A fire catch like us, SOP. 2. Call this number, call this number, call this number. Don't, how can you build a house without a kitchen?
I asked about structures because there are other institutions and, you know, in the country that use, for example, even text message notifications, collaborating with mobile companies to send message to people, text messages about certain sensitizations or messages. That could also be another structure that the fire force could tap into. All the mobile companies, many Sierra Leoneans are connected to these mobile companies, though not all of them are on the internet, but even if you're using the PRSP phones, it does receive text messages. So there are those text message notifications. Even entertainers do it when they have shows. They use these mobile companies to send text messages to people. There's a show here and here. Can't the fire force also tap into that to send that notification to people?
We basically go on Facebook and or go on WhatsApp to send messages to, I mean, groups that are very vital. We explain to them, give them our numbers. But thank God that my brother is here. Probably that will serve as an advantage also. They will lead because they are in charge of National Disaster Management Agency. For any problem, wherever we have a challenge, we explain to them. They sometimes take the lead, especially when people are depressed. When there is fire incident, he heard him saying they will come in, they will assist, provide either food, shelter, whatever. But we will take the lead to make sure that the fire will put it off.
Beyond the people calling fire force late to inform them about the fire outbreaks, what about the capacity of the fire force? How equipped are you in terms of human resources, vehicles, fuel for the vehicles, and access to even water into the tanks to make it in time to these locations?
I want to assure you that for any fire engine that you see packed in any fire station, there is water, there is fuel. Why? It's an emergency vehicle. They can call on it at any time when there is a fire incident. You cannot just go with a fire engine when there is fire without water. I mean, you just want to embarrass yourself. At the end of the day, you get confrontation with the civilians. So we always make sure that there is fire, there is fuel.
But what's the current state of
the status?
What's the current status of the hydrants that you do?
We have few hydrants. That's
most times there is no even there is even no water.
That I will not even hide that from you. We have challenges in hydrants. We have a lot of problems with women. We have been meeting with them to at least let them show understanding. If you can check the Eastern Police hydrant now, it's not functional. In fact, find it very difficult. The only place we have source of water that's the lights by Jubilee. There is another source there where we can get water. Thank God the other time we received some help from NP Sierra Leone. They built some boreholes for us at headquarters and Kisi. That the tanks they bought can take up to 10,000 liters. We have 4 of that 10,000 liters at headquarters and Kisi. So we source water from there. If there is an emergency, we go on fire and we come back and we find out that there is no water. We source from that and fill in the tanks and put them on standby. In the event they will call us again for any other fire incident.
As we speak, at some point in time you spoke on your response mechanism, but one will say the fire force's response to disaster seems much more outdated. It is only when you're called that you respond. In some other countries, they have monitoring mechanisms that they will know what's happening, where fire incidents is currently ongoing. Yours seem much more outdated. What's the problem?
We are praying for more advancement. Thank God my brother is here. He is also hearing what you are saying. We have a lot of challenges that we cannot hide. We have a lot of challenges. Imagine there is a fire incident at Patton Street, right up the hills. In fact, for you to move from Sakila Road to go to Kisi Road is very difficult. Even if there are vehicles, even when they know that fire force is on an emergency move. Because we cannot blow that chalet without getting any emergency call. If you hear that chalet means, you should move away, give way to fire force. If that vehicle takes more than 20 minutes to cross Kisi Road to go to Patton Street, by the time they go there, probably the fire have escalated to a level that is uncontrollable. So what will be the response of the civilians or the people that will be there? They will blast at us. Fire force, is that the time you are coming? You always come late.
I was just thinking about the number of fire engines that the force does as we speak. Many parts of the country, when you go there, you meet just a station with no engine. And Freetown is not Sierra Leone. Much of the attention is being paid here. Places like Moyamba and others have no fire engine. I'm just coming from the provinces.
We are moving gradually.
Gradually when
yes, what can you do when government says, I have this for you? It is better you take what you have and request for more. But if you say we bought 5 fire engines last year, and presently the procurement process is for 4 fire engines that government permitted us to. Fire engines are very expensive. So it's very, very expensive. We have stations, we have new stations that we have already built. We only have people there like caretakers. If you go to Mabuka now, you meet a fire station. If you go to Kabbalah, there is a fire station. If you go to Pujon, there is a fire station. If you go to Kailan, there is a fire station. If you go to Pudloko, there is a fire station. We are now constructing another fire station at Bont. But they don't have fire engines. So we are expecting the more we receive some fire engines, we distribute them to the various districts that don't have fire engines, because we want fire engines to be across the country.
Elba, the submission of SAR makes very clear that the force seem much more neglected at this moment in terms of them having the required infrastructural capacity to go about their work. And it also hinders your work.
It's a bit difficult to say, because you have somebody here from Fire Force who is competent enough to talk on behalf of that institution.
But you work collaboratively?
Yes, sure. We collaborate a whole lot. There is absolutely nothing we do at NDMA relating to fire prevention that will not involve fire force, because they also have their own expertise, and of course they have their own unique mandate to put out fire. So most times we work collaboratively. However, the challenges that he's talking about, I think they are not the only institution that is faced with those challenges, of course. But that notwithstanding, these institutions are established, and they have their own mandate. So most times I understand, we work with what we have.
Is theirs not eminent to be addressed?
We work with what we have to ensure that we're able to deliver on our mandates. You understand? Given the circumstances, no matter how challenging it is. So the focus for this year is really fire prevention. We want to continue to talk to the public. And it will interest you also to note that most of the fire incidents that we've recorded so far are outside of slum areas. Outside of slum areas. Most of the fire incidents that we've recorded this year are out of slum areas. So it tells you that people really need to take their environment very seriously. You build a house for more than 20 years, you've never budged to call somebody to look at the electrification of the house. Whether, for example, rats might have eaten some cables at the rooftop, or for you to do repairs or maintenance, nobody will watch. You understand, to do that. So it will only get to a point where probably a minor issue, of course, that you could have, gotten rid of, maybe that will lead to the burning of your house. So it is important for people to really take care of their homes. And of course, also, when you are leaving your house, please switch off your appliances. Even if you can, put off the meter. Because if there is any voltage, because we cannot control that now, so it's beyond our control to determine the type of voltage that ETSA will be coming with. You understand? That is entirely, probably it's a technical problem that ETSA will come here and defend. But it is happening. There's no denial about that. That will most times get inconsistent voltages from ETSA, and at some point that will lead to either the destruction of home appliances or maybe even fire. That is not in contention at all. But to take care of that, ETSA, that falls within the remit of ETSA. So what we are focused on is to talk to the public, because they are, at the end of the day, the people that are mostly affected. They will be displaced, they will lose their properties and everything they've worked for over the years in just 1 hour. So it is important for them to take care. Please, when you are leaving your house, switch off your appliances. 2, don't connect 10 rooms to 1 meter, for example. Ensure that you hire the service of qualified and competent electricians to do your wiring installations. I think if we start to take these critical but minor steps, it will save us a whole lot and reduce the occurrence of fire incidents. For those up county, please, when you want to burn our bushes for farming purposes, let us ensure we do so by first of all demarcating the farming bed, because like my brother rightly mentioned, most of the villages are very close to their farms. So if there is any overlap, you understand, the entire village, for example, like a particular village in but the whole village burned. Yeah. The whole village burned. In fact, it was only by the grace of God that we were able to get an emergency from State House for us to respond to those people, because they were in dire need of relief items. So, and also, if we could all as a people prevent these fire incidents from happening, and of course also prevent government from spending huge amounts of money to respond by providing these relief items, we could do so much with that money in other areas, for example, to build schools and all, because government is spending huge amount of money to procure those relief items. And it is not that we are only there to respond. You understand? We've done a whole lot in regards to risk management and prevention. It is just that, one, the challenge is still there. For example, like people building in areas where they should not build.
Part of those challenges, Elba, SARS spoke about it's challenging to deliver their services to certain parts of the country. So to people who find themselves in some parts of the country where fire force cannot access their location, what message do you give to them? There's prevention, yes, but peradventure there's a fire outbreak. What are these people supposed to do?
Yeah, that is understandable, and it is difficult. It is especially to those for those hard to reach areas, or we are probably, for example, like fire force. I'm not sure they are present at chiefdom level. I'm sure probably they are at regional level, isn't it? Yeah. You're at regional level at the moment. Say, for example, you are present in the southern region in Bo. Maybe there's a fire outbreak in Moyamba, for example. There's a fire outbreak in the remote areas of Pujon district, for example. I think that is understandable, because there is no
the question I'm asking is, what message do you send to them as to how to respond and react to that in the absence of fire force sending help?
Fire force sending help. First of all, community vigilance is very crucial. Most times the community are the first responders to this incident. So it is important also for those communities, for them to think around having young men and women in those communities, probably that they could actually form a task force to say, in the event of ABCD, this is exactly what we should do. That is why at NDMA, because of the strength of our capacity, we will not be able to be, in every area at any given time. That is why we establish community volunteers in most of these communities. So, for example, if NDMA is not here, and these community volunteers are, playing a crucial role, they are very invaluable to our mission, because most times we are not there, and they are the ones that help also identify most of these challenges in those communities for intervention. They will call us, we have them. They will call us and say, hey, somebody did a billion, we don't talk to the person say that this and that. We will come.
I am asking, so we use this platform for public education. Even in Freetown, where there's fire force, where fire force is headquartered, there are fire outbreaks that it takes fire force nearly forever to show, or sometimes it's a no-show. There are people who do want to help in these instances, but they don't know what to do.
Sure.
And we've seen some of the frantic efforts lead to worsening the situation rather than, quenching the fire. So again, I'll ask the question. In such instances where there's a fire outbreak, there's no fire force, you don't have a fire extinguisher, what are the best methods? I'm asking you because you're with NDMA and you do engage communities on sensitization.
Correct.
So the messages you share with them on how to respond, use this platform to also share.
So, now I understand your question, because it's a bit technical. Initially, I thought, I misconstrued it. However, first responders are very crucial, even in that regard. You understand, especially in hard-to-reach areas. But based on what you've said, because most times even those first responders lack the understanding about how to respond to those incidents. That is very clear. So, circumstances like that, probably the fire force man will add.
I'll get to him.
Fine, the fire force man will add. On it. You don't actually use water, for example, at a go, to put out fire incident. It will only increase the flames. You understand? You don't need water. Sand is preferable. And also foam soft. You mix it with water, it will help to reduce the flame. Foam soft, that foam soap they use. If you mix out water and sand, it help for reduce the flame. So it is very important. Then the road they use for enter, I just put in crew. Don't use that same road to come out again. Use another method, because who say you come on something far wrong, don't take place. Loss in life. So not focus so much on property, focus on saving lives. You say more time and day, inside and day. So it is crucial that you know these things, especially when you are responding in hard to reach areas where fire force probably something up so return where healy so it is crucial for people to know that technically using water as a means to put out fire is not advisable, and that is a predominant method most times first responders use to respond once they want to put out fire. So it is not advisable. Sand is advisable to use, And of course, foam soft. It is very, very, even if na hose, sometimes you gas, don't explode. It is important for you to have a cloth that is being soaked with water, and of course, you use that one to put it out.
So I know you would
so
have...
those are the minor technicalities I think it is important for people to know when you have fire incident that, in areas where you think you don't have any knowledge about how to respond.
Okay, sir, I know you would have some few things to add, but quickly, what's the fire response line?
The line.
The fire force toll-free line, yeah.
The toll-free line, if you call 300 on Africell and Airtel, you get headquarter.
Okay, so let's check how best that works. Test it and see, and you would perhaps also have some additions. Good morning. Fine, thank you. Sorry, we're on a live show on AYV, so we'll just cross-checking that the fire toll-free line to Fire Force does work. And thank you for responding. This confirms that it works.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that clearly shows that it works. Is there anything Elba said that you'd want to add to in terms of first responders?
First responders, as Mr. Elba have just said, sometimes, the volunteers spoke about, and people within the environment are very helpful when it comes to fire incidents, because they know a lot of time before firefighters go to the fire scene, they have already quenched the fire. We always the sensitization is so high that I wonder how people, due to their carelessness or whatever, sometimes I blame people. When people talk about ETSA, a lot of times, yes, but sometimes it is due to people's carelessness. If you have a shop that's worth more than $1 million and you cannot afford to buy a single fire extinguisher, what does that mean? When there is fire, have been spent so many resources, financial resources, to put all the necessary gadgets you need in that shop. You allow it to burn in one day. Sometimes people put money there. The equipment or whatever burn to the money. If you build a house, you spent a lot of money to build that house, and you cannot able to call somebody that is professional in terms of electrification. You don't want to spend that money. You go and call those quack guys that can just pass wire from one point to another as long as there is light. They don't want to know. You give them whatever light you want to give them, they go away. You don't even check your cables. You don't know how the standard is. You leave that cables for more than 4 or 5 years. You don't do any change. You don't do any checkup on it. When there is a fire incident, what will happen? We are getting a lot of challenges of that. We educate people, but people don't take it very serious. As my brother is saying, go to the slum areas. Somebody will just get a meter. More than 10, 20 people will connect from that one meter. Imagine when there is a fire incident. What will happen? The entire environment will get burned down. And these are areas of palm bodies. They are very easy to catch fire.
So, yourself and Elba, you've both mentioned some of the measures that you use in terms of raising awareness to the public on disaster preparedness and safety. But it seems the message is not going down deep into the airs, or perhaps, you hardly see people put into practice most of what is being said. Is there a need, either of you could respond, is there a need to reinvent the wheel in terms of the message into the communities that you target? Because even with the messages, there has been a lot of awareness raising. But the required results is hardly seen in the communities that you've targeted.
There are various hazards that we have been dealing with at NDMA.
Let's say fire.
Fire, for example, is a sticky one. It's very, very tough because throughout the year, like I mentioned earlier, if you look at our hazard profile, our hazard calendar, you find that fire prevention is right through from January to December, especially during the dries. So I think the way forward, despite the fact that we've been able to conscientize the public, is the fact that people need to adhere. Samuel, people need to adhere. They need to take care of their homes first of all. They need to take care of themselves before government will come in. Do you know why? If there is any incident, NDMA or government will come in to respond. But if you lose your life in the process, government won't be able to replace your life. Sure. That is why it is crucial for you yourself to take those precautionary measures that we always preach out. We will not get tired. We will always continue to preach. We will always continue to engage them. And we will always continue to ensure that they do the right thing by going into these communities, at some point enforcing compliance to a very large extent. That is why we are currently working with EDSA to see how we can target specific communities based on our data that have been recording large fire incidents, you understand? Then so that we'll be able to target them, look at what the problem is, and see how we can be able to address some of those challenges and reduce the occurrence of fire incidents in those communities. We are currently working with EDSA on that, and we hope that by the end of this month to March, we'll start to roll out our planned activities for the targeting of those specific communities. So it is crucial. It's very, very crucial. So it is not that NDMA or Fire Force probably might not have been doing much, but I will tell you, the biggest challenge is adherence. And it is crucial for people to adhere. Take crucial steps, especially to protect yourself and your family. It is very, very, very crucial.
Sir, will you want to add up to same?
Yes, because what Mr. Elba is saying is like, I'm just giving you a scenario where somebody will build a house with just one door. Can you imagine that? No back door, no exit door, just one door.
Are there cases of
houses? So there are houses that only have only one door. In the event even when the doors are there, what he will do, he will not just put one door. He will put steel door, bolt door. He will come again and put a mesh. I don't know how they call it. Is it for mosquitoes and so? How can you protect yourself? You are so afraid of thieves. You forget the fact that in case there is fire incidents, how can you escape?
And then you go to sleep.
At the end of the day, you go to sleep. You keep the keys.
It's serious.
You keep the keys. That is the deaths that people. I mean, it's pathetic, but we have saw it. People die unnecessarily on those fire incidents. We have a lot of records on that.
We've had a lot of messages on our Facebook page, and it's time we see ways to usher in our viewers and listeners who've been following us from across the globe. I think first one mind is from Austrian Kama, who says, blame avoidance and blame sharing syndrome within these institutions responsible to ensure safeguarding measures are implemented.
Anthony MS Kosaba is asking, Elba, do our organizations or offices in Sierra Leone have emergency assembly point? Even YV, una get one day?
Austrian Kama also says, has there been a structured investigation in the structural system of the energy distribution network, especially in the load shedding distribution system? The previous system has been manually done, which is a cause for electrical damages such as fires and damaging electrical appliances. This can be typically corrected through automated system that monitors grid condition and activated load shedding when necessary. Also, are there any specific step up and step down transformers that control the energy load in cutoff points for customers? I think EDSA also needs to see ways to respond to same.
Jibril Dumbuya is saying, how can someone switch off their freezer but they have food inside?
Lamin Mara says, Mr. Ba, in your first submission, you only cast blame on electricity consumers without accepting that EDSA too needs to be blamed when looking at the kind of way EDSA sends light.
Victor Fode says this officer needs to apologize to the nation, by which he said people are so careless in their actions, and what he may say about the fire trucks that always say to people that the vehicles are without fuel. Sad nation.
Mosdi says, so basically there is no allocated funding for emergency purposes. If you're talking about government using that money to build schools, it sounds like we lack the resources. Preparedness in the case of emergency, it's called emergency for a reason. Even in developed economies where all appropriate measures are taken to prevent in the case of fire, it still does happen. That's why government spending in these areas is crucial. Whether the resources will be used eventually or not, at least there is readiness. As one Milan colleague will say, some government allocated funds must be always made available and ring-fenced.
Mosdi says until proper education incorporated with thorough enforcement measures without bias, citizens' adherence will always be an issue.
Anthony M.S. Kusuba says the setting up of the NDMA is one of the best decisions by the government. The government should empower this office to function well.
I think that would be all the messages from my end.
Okay, a lot of messages, and
yeah.
Yes, let's see ways to just take those, and you will respond, and we'll wrap up the segment.
Somebody is saying that, how can you put your food in your freezer and you put it off if nobody is at home? Mind you, you have various food items in the freezer and there is light on, you leave it, nobody's at home, the children went to school, you went to work, your wife went to work, nobody's at home. What kind of magic will happen in the event of any electrical fluctuations, or when light go and come without prepared manner? Who protects the home? Another person said, vehicles without fuel. How can you put engine in your station without giving it fuel and water? If you go to a fire scene and you don't have vehicle, you don't have water in that vehicle, what will happen? You embarrass yourself, because the citizen will stone at most of the time. They face some boys face embarrassment, especially when they go late. They may not know what happened. Probably we did not get information earlier. Even when they go 5 minutes after the fire happened, they will start to stone and they will tell them, no, continue. Because we are not only going to protect the house that have started to burn, but what about the other houses that are very close to them? Don't allow the fire to expand to other houses. Prevent it from expanding. That is why we are open to everybody. Our guys go there to do a lot of sensitization. We tell them that buy a fire extinguisher, come to Firehouse. You meet me, Mr. Tom, I'm always available. Tomorrow I'll be again at SMBC in the morning coffee. Salman just spoke to me. We are advertising our numbers, our free online numbers. We are going out to sensitize people, to tell them what to do just to avoid fire incidents. Because we don't want to see the alarming rate of fire incidents. Because in the event of somebody dies, thank God Mr. Elba Abdul said, we have not death rates for now. We are happy about that. The property can be burned down, you can replace it. We saw here during the Rebel War when houses were burned down. People built houses that are more than what they have. So, but you cannot replace life. You see, yes. That's what I don't want to say. Probably Mr. Elba will want to add to that.
Somebody asked if there are emergency points. Yes, we have demarcated, especially in slum communities, where the population should actually converge if there is an emergency. And we've also trained most of those slum residents that in the event of flooding, for example, they should be able to determine when to leave. And we have flags, especially in the major drainages in those slum communities. those sticks has they have 3 flags. You have green, red, and yellow. So if the water level got to a particular point, they know what to do. So all of those trainings are being conducted, especially in distant communities. Say, for example, like Culvert community now, there is an assembly point in the event of an emergency at Culvert community that we identify. The field is there, a very big field, where everybody knows that they should go there in the event of an emergency. Somebody talked about voltage. Of course, I cannot express opinion on that. ETSA should do that, should tell us why we are having fluctuations in the voltage that they supply. Somebody talked about ETSA to be blamed. Well, I also, said that ETSA has some amount of problem, some amount of blame in this, because there's no way you'll be able to blame ETSA because of the type of voltage that they actually send to people's homes. Emergency money, well, based by our act, we are supposed to have an emergency fund. The president spoke about it the last time, and we are still working with the Ministry of Finance for the establishment of that emergency fund for us to be able to respond to emergencies. But that also, people should know that for it to get a threshold, for it to be declared as an emergency, there has to be a declaration from the president. And the threshold and the processes involved in that also can be a bit technical. So it is not just monies that are there so that whatever it is that happens, we'll just go and take it. You understand? So people should know that there are thresholds to be met for it to be declared an emergency before we can access those funds. So it's a bit technical, so people should understand that. And of course, enforcement. Enforcement is key. It's very, very key. So that is why most times we have done a lot of enforcement, especially in areas where people are constructing houses beyond demarcated zones, for example, or protected areas. We have our pillar, the risk reduction pillar. The Ministry of Lands is providing leadership on that particular pillar, and we have done a lot of interventions in demolition of houses, for example, or demolishing structures that are under, construction. So in the area of enforcement, it's something that we've been doing. I know we need to do more, you understand? Because most times there are threats. People use machetes, for example, to fight back. So when you go to those places, you need, for example, the presence of the military to ensure your security, or to ensure the security of the equipment that you may use. You understand, with the Ministry of Lands. In some areas, you need to get court orders, for example, to enforce whatever action you want to take. So it is something that it's a continuous process. We'll continue to engage at. We get to a point where we will really ensure that we enforce compliance, so that people will stop to do these things that are causing so much damage to them and, of course, the country at large.
Do we have a national disaster management strategic plan?
Yes, we have.
Is it accessible to the public?
Yes.
On what platform?
In our website. You go to our website, www.ndma.gov.sl. But if you want, I can share the soft copy with you. Then we have our national strategic plan.
And lastly, sir, there has been a lot of allegation as to the fact that the fire engines on several occasions been seen around selling water to people. I think at some point in time when Unimark was on fire, fire engines were not there, and in the morning they were seen all over the place. We were seen in one location selling water, and even at some point in time myself, I did a story wherein the fire engine was seen around Grafton.
These are all allegations. Now social media is so expand that if you do anything, nobody will tell you. By the time you think about yourself, it is widely spread.
Are you saying that does not
happen? It does not happen.
Are you saying that does not happen?
It does not happen. If we can do it on a humanitarian basis. If AYB say they don't have water, they come and ask
to provide water for construction.
Please help. No, not to construct. I'm talking about institutions that need.
That was a construction purpose I'm talking about.
No.
Where in the vehicle was there,
Do you have a photo of it?
Oh, come on.
Do you have evidence?
I'll share with you soonest, okay?
Do you have evidence?
Go to my,
what we are saying,
go to my Facebook page, you'll see
okay. We are looking at evidence. Okay. Because people are, I mean, they are accusing us of that. But sometimes my guys call me and say, people are accusing us unnecessarily. You know, social media is now, I mean, just to get a photo and send it viral, it's very easy. But nobody has sent it. I've sent any photo to us that we saw your fire engine there selling water. We are not there for that.
So if that happens, what's the penalty?
No, we don't have any penalty. Nobody has caught us on that.
So if it happens, what's the penalty?
We don't know the penalty, but nobody has.
So there's no penalty.
No, what I'm saying,
what you're saying is there's no penalty.
They have not
for
caught
that.
us on that.
So I'm asking you now, catching someone or not, what is the penalty?
We have our own, I mean, we have our act, the Fire Service Act. We go to, according to the act.
Good, because Samuel just told you on his Facebook page, there's a video since you're asking for evidence. So that's why I'm asking you, what's the penalty? The expectation is now that you will go watch that video and take action.
Oh, we'll surely do that if we send it to them.
And finally, from my end, why is it that sometimes when people call the fire force, there are allegations that they've told them there's no fuel?
No. Sometimes, probably, these vehicles are like human beings. You go along, you are okay, at the end of the day, you are sick. They might have mechanical.
No, I'm not talking about mechanical problems. I'm talking about the instances when they tell... I'm talking about the instances when they tell them there's no fuel. That's what I'm talking about, not mechanical.
When somebody came to the station, he doesn't even know who to ask. He just met somebody else and asked him, well, as far as Unimac, the person just answered him, "Power is not a fire officer. There is no fear. But the vehicle, not that the vehicle did not have
So
fuel.
Are you saying you always have fuel?
We always have fuel.
So if anybody calls fire force any day and anyone says there's no fuel, they should take that up?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so very much, Sir and Elba. It's been a pleasure having you in our studio this morning.
Lastly, let me...
to try on to freelance well?
Yes, you want to say
Let me advise.
I tried it once, it didn't work.
No, it's working out.
We have a lot of MDs, to be very honest with you, that don't know the value of fire extinguishers. We are appealing. We have a lot of financial institutions. We have a lot of shops that don't have fire extinguishers. We are free. Go to Fire Force. Help us. Mr. Thomas, how can you help us to procure fire extinguishers? We'll help you to get it. How can you help us to train our personnel as to how to use it? It is free. We'll train them. Because when there is fire at that initial stage, and somebody is there to respond to it, by the time it goes out of hand, they have already coiled the fire. But if you don't have somebody that can use the fire extinguisher at that initial stage, because fire starts at the very initial stage, if there is somebody, you don't need to even alarm fire force. You can able to put it off. But I can bet you go to some institutions, if you ask even the messengers, their cleaners, they don't even know how to use it. These are the people that are always available in their institutions. They are always there. Myself and you, during the weekends, we are not at office.
But I work during the weekends.
No, Papa, it depends on the nature of your job, but I don't work on weekends.
We don't have weekends.
So that what I'm saying, there are other offices that you have people, you don't see them there on weekends. So it is necessary for them, those that are there, the messenger, the security, and so on, they need to be trained. Because they are the people that are there 24 hours. When there's a fire incident, they can able to put it off.
Sir Thomas, as I said earlier on, it's a pleasure having us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
You are always welcome at any time you call on me. Even the last time you said, hey, Mr. I said I'm coming. Samuel is very... I hope you send the evidences.
It will be a continuous problem. And the risk is there for their lives and their properties. So please, the public should really take fire prevention very seriously to help us, at NDMA reduce the occurrence of these incidents. If not, it's...
Thank you, Elba.